Hey horror fans, and welcome back to the Week in Horror, January 26th through February 1st. I'm JL, and with me as always are Alex and Eugene.
Hey guys.
What's up everybody?
And this week, we are super excited to announce that joining us for This Week in Horror, she starred in Criminal Minds, Law & Order SVU, and an epically twisted film Bastard, which is currently available on VOD. Our very, very special guest, horror actress Rebecca Kennedy. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yay! Yay! Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode, Rebecca. And for our Patreons, we'll be hanging out after the episode, getting to know Rebecca and answering some of your questions for our After Dark segment of the part of the show. So let's go ahead and kick this week off.
Yes, let's kick this bad boy off. All right, because we got a bunch to go through as we round out the end of January. So we're going to kick this thing off with some sci-fi. This one premiered January 26th, 1996. So I was 16. Shit. Fucking old.
You don't even want to know.
The ongoing gag, yes, because I was 16.
I was 6.
God damn.
I was 6 years old.
And this little bad boy is a sci-fi horror film called Screamers.
Ooh.
Yes. Actually kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Directed by Christian Duguay and based on a short story called Second Variety by legendary sci-fi author Phillip K. Dick. The screenplay was by Dan O'Bannon and Miguel Tejada Flores, and it starred epic RoboCop. Peter Weller was in this bad boy, along with Roy Dupuis, Jennifer Rubin, and Andy Lauer. And the film, which deviates a little bit from the story, from the short story itself, was about two groups of colonists on this desolate mining planet who have erupted into a civil war. And then in the demilitarized zone between the two camps are a breed of robots that they have designed as kind of weapons of war called Screamers. And nobody goes into the demilitarized zone because the Screamers will kill anything and everyone that enters into that area. And the film follows not only a mission to go and try to cross that territory, but how the Screamers have begun to adapt and evolve over time. A freaky little film with some really decent special effects.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it really does.
95 or 96.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was like a very defining time though, because it got into like, there was like really bad stuff that came out, but then all of a sudden 97, 98 you started getting like, whoa, okay, they're starting to pick stuff up now. Then you hit 2000 and I mean sci-fi has gone so far since then.
Well, I have to admit that I didn't see it when it came out. I won't reveal how old I am because that's silly, but I missed it for probably reasons of, being young and unaware. So I watched it recently, actually, when you guys told me that we were doing this. So I feel like I can't quite appreciate it being out in the 90s. However, I do think that it still holds up pretty well for being as old as it is. I thought it was really fun and creepy, and I mean, killer robots, you really can't beat that. So I thought it was really worth watching. So I appreciate that I got to watch it.
I think it's absolutely cool that this is part of the cool part of doing the podcast is sometimes our guests come on and they haven't seen, because we're encyclopedias of this shit, and sometimes we get guests like you who is the first time they've seen a film like this, and it's awesome to kind of live vicariously through that and kind of get their first response of that, because I saw it probably it was like 97, 98 when I watched this movie, so seeing that is kind of special for us.
Yeah, it was. I love sci-fi, so I was excited to get to experience it for the first time.
Sweet.
And it's nice because it came out a little bit before the over-reliance of CG, so it still had a lot of like practical effects, and I've always liked it when you're actually building robots and moving them around and doing all kinds of stuff like that, so the actors get a chance to really like interact with it.
That had to be so much fun being on the set of that movie, just having to build those things.
Yeah,
that was really.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, as an actor, like practical is still the best, even you know, they obviously can do so much with CGI now, but if you can actually have something on set, nothing beats that.
In what way though?
was-
Like a visual way because it looks better, or it's like more fun to do as an actor?
Um, because there's something about being able to actually interact with something that's actually there. Like for me, the new Jurassic World, like I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. I love the first one especially. You know, I liked the new ones, but there's something about the difference between the ones that are CGI and the ones that they actually built. Like there's the one that they built for the first Jurassic World, and there's just like weight to it. And it just, as an actor, there's something about that interaction that you can't get with CGI because you're like staring at a tennis ball or whatever, you know? And
So you're scared of this tennis ball.
Right, and I understand completely why they have to do it because obviously CGI makes it where you can have so much more than you can actually have before. But it is really nice when you actually get to work with the actual, like in The Mandalorian, like Baby Yoda was a puppet they built. You know, it's like that's so awesome that they actually got to interact with the real thing. So
They got to play with the
apparently,
Baby Yoda.
apparently that was a huge point of contention because in an interview that I read had that they were originally going to go with the CG, make it CGI, and the producer on that, and I think it was Jon Favreau as well, were like, absolutely not. It's like you cannot do that with this. You know, this just not only to stay true to the originals, or to 4, 5, and 6, but to generate that same kind of pathos. Because if Mando was sitting there interacting with, and we already can't see his face.
yeah.
So if he's going to sit there and react to nothing that's being there, it's not going to be able to sell. He's got to have something to bring out those little nuances in his physical performance because it's got to be in his body.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe that Baby Yoda saved. It wasn't just that. But Baby Yoda, that was a perfect choice. Whoever stuck with that stuck the landing.
Absolutely.
You said saved the deal. I was remembering a meme I saw earlier about it was like Ray had said, "Oh no, the series is screwed," and then it was Mando and Baby Yoda. It was like, "Don't worry, me and Space Pikachu got this."
But you were speaking about Alex. You were mentioning the set on that, the set piece on that, because the entire set, it was brilliant. Pretty much the entire movie Screamers was a 2-location set. You had an interior of this kind of like military style barracks,
Base mine thingy, yeah.
This kind of base thing. So the interiors of that, and then the exterior was just wasteland,
just like a dusty ghost town.
Yeah. So it's and the first one is claustrophobic. It's confined. It's it's dank. It's dark. There's just riddled with people everywhere. It's cramped and annoying. Very, very militaristic. And then you immediately step outside, and everything is just gone. It's just rocks, dirt, and nothingness. And so I think this film was successful in creating not only a sense of paranoia being in such close confines, and then when you realize the robots can mimic people, at a certain point, that it generates that paranoia, and then turns around and you take 10 feet outside and just an absolute sense of desolation.
There's just nothing.
And I thought. Yeah, exactly. And I thought the director and the cinematographer were brilliant in balancing that. And of course, the lighting choices utilized to create the essence of an alien planet. When I think they shot this thing out just in a desert somewhere. I'm not sure where the location was, but yeah, a brilliant little setup that was very evocative and created a very nice atmosphere, especially sci-fi wise.
Oh god! And then you throw in killer robots that can like self-replicate, and if you accidentally turn around a corner and run into one of them, you're super screwed. Because they just screw some people up in this movie. There's just arms and legs and body.
And who better than Peter Weller?
Yeah, taking off arms and legs.
Oh god. Yeah, I mean, like the whole thing behind all of it, and being back, in '95, you had your Cold War and all this other stuff, and you get these nuclear post-apocalyptic ideas and what would happen if we ended up in this situation. And then, like I said, you throw robots in there that can, like you said, mimic other people. You're screwed, and you're like you said, desolate. And from the feel of the movie and from what you get, there's nowhere to go. Like, you're done. And so you got to survive and not only deal with humans, but then robots, and then robots that can mimic humans. And I don't know, that'd be terrifying. As sci-fi as like killer robots are, that would be the worst thing, especially coming into 2020, and you've got AI, a technology that would easily... See, I'm a firm believer that AI is a terrible idea, and I feel like people take it so lightly. No, I seriously, I do. I feel like people take it so lightly, but all it takes is just one short circuit, one thing to go wrong for AI to completely wipe out. And it wouldn't take very long. Like, it happened pretty fast.
Yes. Alex freaked out the first time he started talking about things, then he pulled up a Google search on his phone, and it was the exact thing he was talking about.
See, and that it's not even that is like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It's like, no, I can believe that happened. I understand the technology behind it, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Because you can look into my life. It's not that exciting. Go ahead, snooping all my stuff. Here's all my account info and whatever. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to have to feel like I'm taking a shower and being like, all right, is my smart shower gonna fucking kill me? Like, I don't know.
Is the shower watching you? Is it like...
Could be. I don't fucking know. I have a smoke alarm system in here that if it senses smoke, it screams fire, like in the room that you're standing in, because there's motion sensors. And I don't know. I don't like it. Look into my boring life. That's fine. Just stop looking at me all day long. It's kind of creepy.
But now going back to the robots, because the robots in this one were particularly slick, as far as design concepts go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was actually kind of an idea that they were kind of playing with for a little bit and for a while in terms of like how to facilitate these. But one of the things they wanted to go is for like the lethality of it. That's why you get like kind of like the saw blade at the very front. They wanted it to be brutal, as much of a kind of a sci-fi premise that the film had. They wanted still that horror brutality. Whereas, you have some of the other, like Battlestar Galactica or stuff like that, where you still have like killer robots, or like Terminator, you have killer robots, but it's kind of like, oh, well, they'll shoot people or stuff like that. So it still has, like, Terminator goes more on sci-fi. They wanted this to be like specifically horror. And they made it work because it only had a budget of $20 million. So, which, I know, everybody else is like $20 million. That's only $20 million. But, as we know in the film world, $20 million isn't actually a lot, especially for a sci-fi film when you're doing practical effects.
It's pretty impressive. And I have to admit, this is kind of impressive. That meant a lot of money, because if you have your actors, but there was only a handful of primary actors, then you have 2 sets. And I know that the underground bunker said that doubled, that they used the same space for the enemy troops as they did for the protagonist troops. And then you have your desert area, so that's pretty much just your camera crew is just following them as they walk from point A to point B. And so it's an interesting concept that the vast majority of the money obviously went into the little things that helped to create your universe, and of course in the robots themselves, because they did a lot of work, especially the big David scene when the doors open, they return back to the good base, towards their base, and then the doors open up, and it's just that army of Davids come walking out like that, which still is kind of freaky in my eyes. That would just be really, that kind of still gets me to this day. But yeah, practical effects always the way to go. I mean, come on, you can't beat that in Terminator, when after she blows him up in the truck and he comes out of there and it's like nothing on him, just the robot itself, and that was a puppet being worked on it. That was just brilliant shit.
It is. I'll take it. I'll take practical effects all day long.
So given that, and Alex mentioned being that Phillip K. Dick, he was deeply inspired, and his kind of sci-fi was deeply inspired by things like the Vietnam War and the Cold War and just the pervasive dread of society and like that. He generated he's a legendary writer. I mean, he was the guy behind Terminator, and Cameron actually ripped that idea off of him and made the film Terminator, and Dick actually sued him and got his name in the credits and actually got an undisclosed settlement over that whole shebang. So he's the mind behind a lot of fantastic stories that have been adapted into films. Most notably, Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep was adapted into Blade Runner by Ridley Scott. So his name is out there. Most know him and his legendary body of work. My question is for our audience: what's your favorite Phillip K. Dick adaptation? He's a legendary sci-fi writer, and a lot of stuff got made. We'd like to know what you think. What's your favorite? Or if something has not been adapted, what do you think would make a good adaptation? Let us know in the comments below. And what do you say, Alex? What do we got next on the list?
I think we'll move down the line to
I hear we got a good one.
Oh, it's great. January 20th, 2005, this gem was dropped in our fucking laps. Alone in the Dark, directed by our best friend, Uwe Boll. This one was written by Ellen, I'm going to butcher, Mastai, starring Christian Slater, Tara Reid, Stephen Dorff. God, I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this seriously. Frank Turner and Matthew Walker were in this one as well.
Well, you can take these actors seriously because these are actually some talented actors.
Hey, no, a lot of them were. There's maybe a couple in there that could have stayed home. But so this movie is actually about a paranormal investigator who is looking into the death of a friend, and he goes to this island, and they end up coming across a like a demon gate, I guess, a gateway to hell, if you will. And yeah, I mean, it follows these lead characters just kind of trying to figure out this mystery. And this was an Uwe Boll, so obviously based off of something good, and then tossed into a trash can. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, this movie was kind of out there.
Yeah, it was. I don't really like to trash stuff, and that's when it's not in the comfort of my own home.
It's okay.
But
okay, Uwe Boll has retired.
Yeah,
he is no longer.
He will not be listening to this and blacklist me.
He's now a restaurateur in Germany, so he's good to go.
If you don't plan on getting food donors out in
not
Germany,
one of my favorites. I don't remember when I saw it, but I didn't rewatch it because for obvious reasons.
I'll be honest, I don't know how it ends.
I don't even really remember that much about the movie, to be honest. I just know that I remember it not being good, and it was kind of like one of those where well, never gonna watch that again, and you move on. But it was funny. I was looking at IMDb to kind of remind myself of this movie, and I liked one of the reviews that said a better title would have been "Alone in the Theater." I like that. That was a good summary of the movie.
We usually come across one that we trash. So.
Yeah, as actors, you don't always know. Sometimes the script's great and it doesn't turn out well. It's unfortunate. It's really hard to make a movie, and it's really, really hard to make a good movie. So it's not everything's a winner, and that's okay. I'm sure there's some people out there that like it.
I love how Rebecca put that, because it's hard to make a movie. It is really hard to make a good movie. And it is. And one thing, and it's interesting you brought that up, with these caliber of actors. I mean, come on. I mean, you got Christian Slater, you got Stephen Dorff. Both of them have had, Christian Slater on Mr. Robot is absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it shows the range of his ability. Stephen Dorff has been, he's been acting, child actor since The Gate. And I loved him in that. And I loved him in Blade, and he's just a wide range of stuff that he's done. And I love watching him work. And then, of course, Tara Reid has had her moments. I'm not going to trash Tara, but, either way. Child of the 90s. But either way, you have a wide range of talent. William Sanderson, a terrific character actor who's been around for forever. But in this respect, we were diving into it, and what we discovered is that Uwe shot all of his stuff out of the country. He didn't shoot it in America because obviously it was much, much cheaper. And he also funded his stuff through Germany. And when you make movies in Germany offered, at the time, I'm not sure if it's the same, but Germany was offering 50% tax credits to film movies there. And with that 50%, you're basically getting half your money back just for shooting there in that film. So that freed up a ton of money in order to actually secure some, A-list talent to come out there and actually work in these movies. And because that was the big question, is how does he keep securing these? If you look at In the Name of the King, he got Jason Statham, he got Kristanna Loken, Burt Reynolds, Ray Liotta, John Rhys Davies, Lily Sobieski, and I know there were a spattering of other names out there that are not as recognizable, but he had a massive cast. It's how do you do this? It's well, it's easy. When you're already guaranteeing half of your money back from filming in this country, and then you shoot in countries like Prague and Czechoslovakia, where things are not as regulated, things are quite cheap, then you can have that budget expense go to these top billed actors and really kind of generate the buzz that way. But that doesn't always play.
Yeah, like when you have a $20 million budget on Alone in the Dark and your opening weekend gross is like $2.8 million, and then worldwide was $12 million.
Yeah.
At least you're getting half the money back.
And it was based off a video game. I think this was the second of his video game adaptations. The first one was House of the Dead.
Yeah.
And that one was also a major stinker. And then this one was based on Alone in the Dark. And it wasn't even based on the first Alone in the Dark. It was based on the fourth. So,
yeah, it wasn't even
that's weird.
Not even a lot of people played that game because Alone in the Dark was never even really a great series.
No,
so, I mean, you combine a lackluster video game series and probably the worst entry in that series, and then you combine Uwe Boll, woohoo, and you get, I think, what was arguably the worst film ever made. One of them.
Quite possibly. And, Rebecca brings up a really good point, because as you're reading scripts and stuff like that, a lot of times you don't know how the final product is going to be, because, like, I remember listening to an interview of Mark Hamill with Star Wars when he got the script to New Hope, and they all thought it was a comedy kind of thing. Like, because they didn't understand it. And I got a chance to talk with Lou Diamond Phillips, who he turned down The Matrix. Because he was like, I just didn't understand the script. I didn't understand what was going on and everything like that. And we all saw how big that turned out. So a lot of times, talent is guessing, with meeting with the director and kind of feeling out the story and kind of getting their vision. Like, could it be a good film? Because sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, and it can be kind of hard, like figuring that out, kind of thing. But
I'm curious. That brings up a question. Rebecca, especially in indies, because things are often, by the seat of your pants in the indie film world, and you just kind of rush to get done what you can get done. Have you ever run into anything like that, where the end result when you saw it at the premiere ended up being wildly different from what you what you were working on at the time?
Choosing my words carefully here.
Oh, we don't know. We don't want you to throw anybody into the bus.
No, actually,
if you've seen that yourself, yeah.
Some things are better than others. Nothing I've done was like wildly different, which I guess is good. I've not been involved in anything where I was filming one movie and then saw a different movie on the screen. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, not everything, always turns out the best that, I've ever been in, and that's okay. It happens. We all just strive to make good projects and just do the best you can and you move on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
It just is reminiscent of kind of like what Mark Ruffalo said about Endgame, in that as an actor, he had no idea what ending they were going to go with.
Right.
And he shot like 5 different endings for that film himself. He was in 5 different endings with a very smattering of the other characters, and he wasn't 100% sure exactly what was going on or how it was going to end. But then again, that could be a combination of the fact that Mark likes to spoil everything, and the Russo brothers wanted to keep everybody on their toes and make sure that if something got leaked, it wasn't the right thing. I don't know about that, but you have an actor there, Mark Ruffalo, who has no idea what's happening. He's just literally going off the script and filming scenes that will never see the light of day.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and that's also Marvel is so secretive. I mean, I hope a project like that someday where I don't know what's going on. That's just that world. They're so they have to be, because they can't risk, anyone finding out or leaking, the ending for the audience. So I can understand like a situation you wouldn't know exactly what's going on. But in the indie world, usually they're not that have to be that secretive. I mean, obviously you don't want to give away the ending, but it's not as like. Most likely someone's not going to try to find it to put it online, whereas Marvel, like, there are people that try to find out so they can spoil it for people. So
just takes one person to ruin it for everybody.
I know.
I could see Rebecca as like Dazzler
Hey, there you go.
in the MCU.
Well, thank you.
If you do when you screen MCU, I can see that.
Disney, if you're listening.
If you need someone, if you're looking,
Yeah, Dazzler, maybe Wonder Girl or Lady Blackhawk. I'm sorry, this is not a comic podcast. I apologize. I could go on that all day long.
Shit, we just got sucked into another universe.
Stargirl. Stargirl would be good. You got to look into that campaign. Yes,
I think they're
I
are
say
they making a
Rebecca
TV show
Kennedy for Stargirl
already?
MCU. Bring it on.
I think. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
It's hard to keep up with everything.
Well,
But anywhere in the universe,
yeah,
I would
so-
actually love to like be able to wear
Uwe
like some
Boll.
kind of cool prosthetics and be some cool something in Star Wars, any of it actually. So anyone out there listening, yeah.
Give me a
pick up the
call.
phone. Pick up the phone.
We'll start a petition
And, well,
below.
we can honestly say that despite the having done House of the Dead, having done Alone in the Dark, having done In the Name of the King, Postal Rampage like this, despite a tumultuous career, I can say honestly about Uwe Boll that he did love what he was doing. He was dedicated to what he did. He was a dedicated filmmaker, and whether or not people loved it or not, he was going to fucking put out a goddamn movie. And he did it. He did it multiple times over. I mean, he's got an extensive filmography. I mean, I can't imagine. We know how hard it is to get a fucking film done. I mean, I've had short films, which were nightmares just to get in the can. And this guy was wrangling multi-million-dollar productions with giant ensemble A-list casts, and you got to give it to him. So he did it. He got it done. He did it his own way, Frank Sinatra style. He did it his way. And he did retire. So he backed off from after I think the debacle with his last film. It was It was like Rampage, President Down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like the third in his like Rampage trilogy. He retired. I think he retired from that after it was so insane trying to get that one funded that he eventually did retire. I believe he is a restaurateur now I think in his home of Germany, and his wife and him still produce. So he is still producing stuff. Just funding stuff, getting stuff done, and doing that. But he, as far as I know, he is legitimately retired from filmmaking. Just the internet, I think he fell prey to that. I think he did what nobody should do is he fed the trolls and he actually read the comments, and I think he took it a little bit too personally. So because his reactions down the road at the end were really, really, really angry. So, but hey, hats off to him. He did it. I mean,
did his thing.
He really
he fucking did it. So
he had his own style, and we talk about like the Quentin Tarantino's and Christopher Nolan's and how they have their own styles and stuff. He had his own style. He stuck to it, kind of thing, despite what a lot of people said. And I'll be honest. There's a couple that's kind of fun to watch. I'm not going to say they're going to be nominated for Best Picture or anything like that. But some of them they're kind of fun, and he went out and tried. And I'll never knock a filmmaker for going out and just making.
I mean, it's tough to make a film and then to get it out there and to anyone actually sees it. Those are two difficult things. So, like you said, hats off to anyone that can make a film and get it out. It's it's not easy.
That's
Definitely.
I know we've dogged on him a lot, but you mentioned the Rampage series there, Jared, and I think that was probably one. I mean, besides obviously Doom and actually Alone in the Dark, I think that was one of the first films that I ever saw by him, and I thought that first one it hit me like I was drug into that movie, and it made me feel all sorts of different kinds of way. And by the end of the movie, I was like, wow, I totally understand both sides of the film. So I think he did do some good stuff. I mean, I don't think you could do a Rampage film now just because of what's going on in the world. But I think that film, like you said, he's got his own style, and that really came out in that movie. And I liked that it was away from the video game thing, because as cool as video game movies are, they're so hard to do, especially when you've got such like hardcore fan bases that if you get one thing wrong in the movie, you're going to get, like you said, the trolls are going to be out there just screaming at you. And like you said, that kind of probably had a lot to do with him backing off because he was so hurt by the negative reactions. But like you said, he went out there and did it. So it's kind of a double-headed coin here where it's like, yeah, great job. Way to go. You started your career. You did what you wanted to do. You finished it. No major giant hiccups. But yeah, so that's kind of, I'd like to ask the audience, how do you feel about Uwe Boll? Did you like him? Did you not like him? What were your favorite films? If there was something that he could have done differently, like, what do you think? Let us know. Shoot us a comment.
I do honestly think that the Rampage series was, apart from his German stuff, because his early German stuff was actually quite good. He was a really good raw director, but his Rampage series was solid, was pretty solid. I think I'm going to put the strength of that on Brendan Fletcher, who I think is just is a phenomenal actor. I recently saw him in The Night Hunter.
Oh yeah,
and he was fantastic.
God, he plays that role so well.
Oh yeah, so he's just I love watching him work. He can go 90 miles an hour, or he can bring it back real good. So just
he can make you feel the dark side of yourself, which is cool.
Oh yeah, he captures. So I'm gonna give him a little shout for that, because the Rampage movies, I can see where Boll. I think that the Rampage movies epitomize kind of Boll's mentality and Boll's worldview, and that's the things that really upset him about the world itself. I think he's I don't think he's anti-capitalist, but I think he hates the politics and the bullshit red tape that comes with sometimes making films and stuff like that.
Kind of like taking all that money and burning it. I thought that was pretty cool. Hell yeah. Oh, right on. All right, Eugene, let's move forward.
All right. Next, we got the movie coming up. Was released January 30th, 2007. And the movie is Prey. Directed by Daryl Root. Written by Jeff Wadlew. Starring Carly Schroeder, Peter Weller, and Bridget. I'm going to butcher her last name, so I'm sorry right now. But Bridget Moynahan.
Yeah, Bridget Moynahan.
Oh yeah, Bridget Moynahan.
And our man Peter Weller back.
Peter Weller,
man.
two in one episode. Love me some Peter Weller. But Prey is about a family that actually goes to Africa, right, to go help build a dam. And while they're out there trying to get this thing built, they're actually being stalked and killed off by a pack of lions. Kind of thing.
Bastards.
It's very close to like Ghost in the Darkness kind of thing, where you're trying to get something built and you start getting hunted by like this apex style like predator kind of thing that basically it's not even killing for food anymore. It's killing just for the sake of killing because it actually enjoys it kind of thing. And what's really terrifying about the movie is that as us, like, we like to see ourselves as a top species. We're the humans. We're the best. We have all this technology and all this other kind of stuff. But when you're actually out in the jungle or in the savannah or, in their territory, the lion's going to win. It's just it. The lion, you're in his world.
Yeah, the Ghost in the Darkness is actually one of my... I know we're talking about Prey, but on a side note, really love that movie. Yeah, and we went to Chicago a few years ago for a friend's wedding, and we went to a museum, and they actually have one of the lions that was one of the two in the museum. It's like so fascinating. Yes.
Which museum?
Yeah.
That's out of the Chicago Field Museum.
Hey, my grandpa was a paleontologist at the Chicago Museum, Field Museum. His name is all over like their T-Rex, Sue.
Oh, that's really cool.
He was on like a bunch of the digs when they found a lot of that stuff. That's
where
I'm from originally.
I love animal movies. Both like when they're nice and when they're not. Like, little dog movies are very cute. I feel like this is one I had seen a while back. Didn't rewatch it, but didn't have time. But I enjoyed it. It's one of those ones where it's not the best movie, but you have fun anyway, and you're not really sure, how they're gonna do it, and like when the animals are gonna attack, and I don't know. It's just I like all of like Jaws is one of my favorites. Like I just love. I don't know, something about animals. They're terrifying. There's something fun about watching those.
It's so real. Like it brings a realism to it.
I have to admit, I also like animal films, but I prefer the horror ones over the when they're nice, because when they're nice, bad things always happen to them. And,
Lion King.
and like Turner and Hooch.
Yeah, Old Yeller.
Exactly. Right. Oh God, you had to go there.
You brought it up. It
Right.
popped in my
Yeah,
head.
and I recently
Right in the
watched
feels,
The Art
man.
of Racing in the Rain over.
So I prefer the
I think it
horror.
was Christmas, and thankfully they didn't show the dog passing, but it was such a beautiful film. And by the end, I'm just like, my eyes are leaking, and I'm like, dogs are so beautiful.
Somebody
I
call the
did the same
plumber.
thing. Because I recently signed up for Disney Plus, and because I had to watch The Mandalorian, and I was going to promise myself I'm going to cancel this free trial.
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
going to do it. And then I started watching Marvel movies again. And then I was like, oh wow, White Fang is on here. I got to watch that. So I started watching
Gargoyles
these
on there
movies.
too. Sorry. This is...
I come home from work one day, and Angela's watching Turner and Hooch, and I'm like, oh, Tom Hanks, this is fantastic. Let's sit and watch Turner and Hooch, and I sat there and was like, oh God, here it comes. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm gonna be 40 here in a few months, and I'm sitting here just like being all still and everything. It's just like ugly crying, but not really making a big show of it. Just no. I've seen this movie like fucking 40 times.
No.
It
And it's
never
like one of
gets
those
easier.
movies, like
It
when it's
never
like
does.
that, it's like I can only watch it
That's why I
once
prefer
because
the-
I know, which is, it's like I know it's coming. I just can't.
Why would you do it to yourself?
And you see, exactly, and you see the better, the nicer, more positive the animal movie, the worse it's going to be. Because at least Turner and
Yeah.
Hooch, it's a cop. They're cops. Okay, so something you can prepare yourself. It's a dangerous job, line of duty. But come on, Marley
Yeah.
and Me.
Oh.
No,
Oh God, why?
no.
Stop it.
Okay.
This is a horror
dog-
podcast. Stop making me cry.
A Dog's Life. Absolutely not. It's like, no. So yeah, it was killing me. That's why I prefer the horror movies, because the horror movies I'm not going to cry, and I would be
Well,
like,
and they're not like
and I may
usually
even
they're
be
not
like, that
real
motherfucker
because they
deserved it.
have to
But,
CGI
I'm
in them,
actually-
because like you can't have like, most
Right.
of the time, and they're not actually, whereas the cute animals are like usually real. So there's definitely something about that, even if they didn't actually die, you still like, obviously feel for them. Whereas these, like, yeah, you're like, please get back at please kill them or whatever.
Murder the
See,
lion.
and that's the beauty of, I think, there was a time in the 80s and the 90s when animal horror, obviously Jaws kicked this off. They made it mainstream. You had bad animal movies throughout, but I think Jaws is what made it. Was just taking animals, apex predators, and turning them into horror icons. Jaws made people afraid of sharks, and then you had I think there was what was it? Movies like Prophecy and stuff like that made people afraid of bears, and then you had like Grizzly Park, and you have all kinds of like bears and stuff like that, and lions. Of course, Ghost in the Darkness made people afraid of lions, and then bears, stuff like that. But I love it because was one of my absolute favorites. Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin.
Instinct.
The Edge.
Oh, sorry, different one.
Yeah, The Edge. And where the two of them are lost in the woods, they get attacked by a grizzly bear. And this grizzly bear starts tracking them through the woods. And where it's more of a character drama than it is, it's just a thriller, because it's a character drama between the two men while they're dealing with this fucking bear. And one of my favorite bear actors, I know he passed away recently, was Bart the Bear. He was a legendary trained bear for films. Huge, massive Kodiak grizzly. He's like other than the death scene, everything shot with him was the bear. Was that literally that, like, I think
So
he
much
was
more,
like
like,
1,100 pounds.
I don't know,
This
terrifying
1,100
when
pound
you
bear,
know
which
that
was
it's
just
an
as
actual
gentle as
real,
could be with anything.
it
So-
has like the weight to it. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I'm trying to imagine Anthony Hopkins, when the bear is like over him, going oh in his face and like that.
Well,
and
'cause it's
like,
still-
and people,
it's
the
still
people
a wild
off,
animal.
off camera going, it's okay, it's all right.
And
There's no need
and
to be
animals
afraid.
are
Bart's not gonna hurt
unpredictable
you."
even if they're
He's-
trained. So it's still
Still
scary.
a fucking bear.
Yes, it's still a fucking bear.
Very true. Very
Yeah, it's
true.
wild because I think Bart had a career that spanned like almost 15 years. Never
they
had
had
an
to be,
incident.
yeah.
Never, and you just a loving bear since I think he was raised as a cub, and and just loved what he
Yeah.
did. And was just
Yeah.
so personable with everyone he worked with, and was always kind and gentle. And I guess that's a remark to the trainer, the guy who brought him up, because and I think he's brought up other bears as well. It's like he specializes in this, but taking people out of their comfort zones and reminding audiences that we are not the masters of our domain. Whether you're in the water, or you're in the desert, or you're in the woods, or you're in the Arctic, or whatever like that, there is. I like the horror there because it's reality there. You're putting them out of their element. You're reminding people that you are not built.
Oh, so yeah,
for
the
some
wolves.
places in this world. And were you in it like the gray? Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're in the gray. I mean, these guys work in the Arctic, and you can get that kind of sense of. Yeah, we've been here like 8 months, a year and a half. We're masters of our domain. We got this shit on lockdown. And then all of a sudden you change one thing and you ain't shit.
Oh yeah.
And if done correctly, you can really, really sell some terror in that. A recent one I saw was a bear movie, and it was just a black bear in this one. It wasn't even that big. But I'm a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. I've been to Philmont. I've hiked high adventure and been out in the New Mexico mountains, and even a 600-pound black bear that is no joke. Okay, even a 400-pound one is no joke. They're dangerous as shit, and you find yourself in the wrong place. And I love that kind of horror that just sells that. You're just like, oh yeah, take you out of the city, put you in the wrong spot, you are in a serious world of hurt.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm
definitely
from the
north, and out in Minnesota and Wisconsin, you would see like baby black bears like climbing up trees. We even had one come through. I used to live in this little town in Minnesota. It just would walk through the middle of town. Like, what's up? What's going on? But like you said, one thing wrong. You get in between like even a small black bear and their cub. Like, oh, good luck. You better.
And mentioning this with this kind of situation, because Prey was inspired by the Savo man-eaters.
Yeah, Rebecca said earlier.
That Rebecca
she saw
mentioned
one at,
earlier.
the Field Museum. Yeah, the Savo man-eaters. They were a pair of lions in the Savo region. They're responsible for a number of deaths of construction workers that were working on a railway between it was like Kenya, Uganda, and then to the Indian Ocean, and. That's the scary thing. It was based off this real story. And these two lions ended up stalking and killing these construction workers. And there was like a lieutenant, I believe his name was Henry Patterson. I
think he was a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Patterson. That's right. And so he ended up going out there, and after these lions had been just eating people, which was like super. They're not out there to like eat people. That's like prey. It's like, oh yeah, they were gonna eat all the. They're not. That's not normal behavior for lions. They're usually gonna kind of stay back and mind their own business. But for whatever reason, these lions were just killing these people. But so Patterson, they ended up having to fight these things, and he shot one of them like in the ass. In the back, like the back leg, and it ended up getting away, and then it came back, and while Patterson was looking for it, this thing was stalking him the whole time, and he ended up killing the first lion, and then they shot the second lion 9 times before it went down. Like, it wasn't just like an easy, hey, one shot, one kill thing. Like, these things were stalking these people, and they weren't going to stop until they were dead. And there was like a whole investigation and research, and they're even still looking into it, because from what I was reading, there was, they said like 100 or more people, but then
I think the estimates were like 150.
Yeah, but then it really only ended up being like between like 25 and 35 or something like that, and just from what they know. But like, they still are doing research into why these lions were attacking these people. And when they brought them over to the Field Museum, I remember my grandpa talking about it, because this happened all back in 1898. And so when we went and we toured with him, because he was real into it, they talked about it and how they were doing like all this analysis on like their bones and trying to figure out why the heck these two lions just became murderous, like for sport almost, it seemed, because they were just killing everybody. There was even like accidents, like they would show up and people get scared and fall off of stuff and die. They were just like out there just being assholes.
I think there was what some of the locals said, because Savo was at the time, reading up on the history of the actual area, was an awful was just a god awful area. It was malaria plagued. There were people dying left and right. It was kind of like Mos Eisley, a villainous den of scum and villainy. And there was just a lot, and because the whole place was split between the Muslims and the Jews, or the Muslims and the Hindus, and there was constant class warfare going on, and just social strife. And so, if you combine all of that, you combine the sick, you combine injuries on the railroad, on building the railroad, you combine the occasional bursts of spouts of violence, stuff like that, and there were several high-ranking people, I don't know if you call them religious leaders, that believed that the lions were ghosts. That's where they got their name, the Ghosts in the Darkness, and that they were the spirits of dead medicine men who were returning to stop the English from conquering Africa. That's at the expense of all of these African lives. So it was the story behind that, and how they, because the story of the Savo man-eaters is just, it's kind of like, it's anecdotal to us here in America, because, the lions there, you can go see them, it's two maneless lions, like that, and it kind of it allows us to compartmentalize it, but there, in Africa, it's like legend across the continent, that people know of it, and has inspired its own kind of, legends that grew up all around it. It's really, really impressive, and kind of a rare event, but one of those cool things. And that's why I like horror based on that, is like horror that really strives from reality.
Well, and you brought up all the stuff that was going on there, disease and all that stuff, and that was another theory brought up, was like their natural prey had fallen victim to like this disease. It was almost like it was called rinderpest. It was a cattle plague, and their normal prey would have been like cattle, and with them being diseased, they had to find food elsewhere. You get a full railway full of just, big juicy railroad workers.
They're hunting humans.
They're like, whatever, hey, they don't smell like disease, and they look pretty little, so let's go ahead and try these guys.
Yeah.
It's gnarly. I did like in Prey how they focused it on the lionesses, that it was the females.
Yeah, it was
doing that. Yeah, because that's more true to reality. Although the Ghosts in the Darkness were two male lions that were running together, which is very, very weird. No one really understood that.
The whole thing was weird. Like I said, they're still looking into it. Like, why the heck did this happen? And you think Mother Nature, like, shit goes down, and sometimes you gotta like change and adapt. But for a predator like that to just absolutely switch everything about itself over to this new like tactics, hunting styles, prey that they've never seen before, was just super weird.
Yeah. Hey, Jaws was based on actual events. That bull shark swam up that estuary in New Jersey and wound up, I think, killing 3 people. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too.
It was a bull shark it was a bull shark in New Jersey that actually somehow made its way north and wound up swimming up a brackish river during a summer and wound up killing like, I think it was like 3 people that were in there, because it was a big hot spot, for people to go and cool off during the hot New Jersey summers. So, but yeah,
that's, I mean,
you never know what you might get.
If you could make New Jersey any worse, it would be with a shark.
You just throw a shark in there.
Just kidding. Love you, New Jersey.
And and this actually brings us to our question is, what aspect of animal horror do you love? Do you love the aspect of, kind of like a man against nature kind of thing, like say something like The Grey, or maybe something that's kind of out of place, like in Prey or The Ghost in the Darkness, where it's all of a sudden these animals are acting strange or something like that. So let us know in the comments below, what do you like about animal horror? Or maybe what you don't like about it. All right, what do we got next?
All right, we are going to close out our week, and this is a particularly special one. I like this one. Released February 1st, 1977. Epic, legendary film, Suspiria.
Ooh.
Now, I adore. I love this movie. Written and directed by Dario Argento, starring a diverse and foreign cast. It does have our legend Udo Kier in there, who I love that dude. We talked about him on a previous episode when it was his birthday. But also featured Jessica Harper, Stefania Cassini, Flavio Bucci, and Miguel Bozé, among others. A huge ensemble cast. This movie was is literally up in my top 10. It is a story that follows a young woman who joins a ballet company, who travels overseas to join this ballet company, and discovers that the company has a very bloody and supernatural past to it, because it's not just a ballet company, it is run by a coven of particularly nasty witches who are trying to summon up the mother of their coven. It's a wildly powerful film in many, many respects, and should be on every horror fan's watch list.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, I actually hadn't seen the original. I had seen the remake, and so to get ready for this interview, I went and watched it, and I'm so glad I did. It was so good. I feel like it still holds up even now, and especially watching it for the first time now. It was beautifully shot, really fascinating, interesting movie. And I feel like even though I'd seen the remake, it didn't necessarily spoil the movie. I feel like the beginning, when the double murder sequence was so horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my god, with the falling metal and the
Good luck sleeping tonight, right?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, all around, I thought it was really, really awesome.
I know that with the remake that they did a special before it was released. There was some event that they did kind of like we've made a remake of the movie, and here's the scene. They did a promotional scene where they just showed one particular scene from the remake film, and it was the mirror room dance scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that there were audience members that reported that they felt traumatized after watching that.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was that was in the remake. Now this original one, the original Dario Argento one, while they both tell the same story, both each director took it in a wildly different direction as far as what they were trying to say. Whereas this new one, the remake focused more on it was very much an kind of an experimental art film and it focused much more on the horror, because we could do so much more with practical effects and other various things like that mirror rooms. I watched that scene, and that one was just whoa. That one was visceral.
Yeah.
And that was the focus of this one, whereas Argento's original one was about creating an atmosphere he wanted to create an earthly atmosphere that appeared and made you feel like you were looking at an alien landscape, that was evocative and visceral and completely like you were completely out of your element, but you're not. You're here. You're in this building and like that. But once you walk through those doors, it's not your world anymore. And how this girl, his lead actress, is navigating this terrifying, psychologically affecting denizen of these evil women who are doing this or who are using these girls to their own advantage. It's a powerful film, both of them, and I think more in Argento's, because his use of color and his use of light.
Yeah.
The way that this movie
Yeah.
just holds you down against the couch too, like you said, the color and light, and just like the feeling from start to finish, from that first double murder scene like you were talking about, it really pulls you in. Now, I always remember because what actually reminded me of this movie, because I'd seen it a long time ago, and then I watched, I think it was called like The Black Swan or something, with Natalie Portman or whatever. But then it reminded me of this movie because it was like the psychological, where it's pulling you left and right. But then so I ended up going back and watching this after that movie came out. And like you said, the use of color and light and the way that they like, one particular scene that I remember was when they were talking in the office and they were like zooming in, and like it was just like I catch myself leaning forward into the TV screen sometimes and leaning back. And and coming from like, I know Eugene, you play around a lot with the camera, and JL, you've been on a lot of sets too. I can't imagine working with somebody who had this idea and being able to bring like that's just, you're walking around a totally different world, like you said.
It's really fascinating because it's actually one of the last films that was shot in Technicolor, kind of thing.
They really used it to its full potential.
Oh, absolutely, because they were going for like that old style Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, those really vibrant colors that you see a lot in like the 30s and 40s when color was like brand new in film. And so he wanted to actually go back and use that process for it to help bring. That's why it's so vivid. The colors pop out of the screen for it, kind of thing, for a movie at a time.
And Rebecca,
I think it was Luciano Tovoli was who worked on this, and he's a legendary cinematographer because he worked on Titus. I think it was Julie Taymor's Titus, and you can see his effects because you can see kind of like where he goes, and he's always trying to break new boundaries and do new things every single time. He has a style, but he always is searching to do something new, and he experiments. And he goes for broke, and he takes wild risks that, for some reason, I mean, in his genius, they always
work out. And that's Rebecca had said earlier, like, this movie still holds up, but in more way than just, it could be a movie that you could do today. But even back in 77, like, they did it better than, you'd have to bring back the director. You'd have to bring back some of the writers and stuff to kind of get that same feeling. It kind of blew stuff. I would call it better than a lot of newer movies. I would rather see these kinds of visual adaptations, if you will, rather than like these newer movies that are just like so cut and dry. I'd rather look at a set and feel the set, which is what they really did in this whole movie the whole time. Any corner you went around, any room you walked in, it was always just like you could feel what they were going for, and that was super cool.
Yeah, Jessica Harper turned in a phenomenal performance in this as Susie. I mean, her whole journey from the naive girl that walks in, to the very, very end, when she's standing there, you can see she emoted the way the character, her entire arc was just summed up in that moment when she's there and she's outside and the school is burning down, like that, and just the way Argento, everything, the whole team on that, just is a visual masterpiece, just an absolute treat to the eyes.
It really is, and the fact that. Not a lot of Italian films get a lot of attention here in the United States, and especially back in 1977. The fact that it's influencing people, you talk about movies like Black Swan, you got the remake, and a lot of other films that has actually influenced going away from the this is how we typically shoot a slasher movie. This is how we typically shoot this kind of a horror movie. It's like, no, we're gonna take some artistic license and we're gonna try to show you something in a different way that I think only a lot of horror films in the U.S. are just now catching on to.
That's you say they take influence. Did you know that the color scheme of this movie was molded around Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, actually?
Oh wow,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, the director Argento had Luciano watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to have a model the color scheme after that. So that's like, if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of red, yellow, those deep colors. So it's super cool.
It's so wild. I know that, going into the history behind it and where Argento got his inspiration is that there was an English essayist called Thomas de Quincey. And anybody studying up on their horror history, or I would say their literary history and things like this, this essayist wrote basically a collection called the Suspiria de Profundis, which is Latin for sighs from the depths. And the whole thing is a compilation of kind of like psychological fantasy essays that he wrote, mostly inspired by his experiences when he was deep in the throes of opium addiction. Which, that tracks, very much. But his stuff is really profound stuff. And I know that Argento took from those essays, took from the Suspiria de Profundis, and developed. I think that Suspiria was the first of a trilogy, and that I think called the Three Mothers trilogy.
Yeah, so it's actually the first one in a trilogy, and then you have the second one that came out called Inferno, which came out in 1980. And then the third one, throughout a delayed release and a couple of other issues that happened, was called The Mother of Tears, that came out in 2007. So it definitely took a long time to fully and finish the trilogy behind it.
That's a spread.
Yeah, that's like Terminator spread or something like that. Probably even longer than that. Kind of thing in terms of putting it together. But yeah, he did. He sat through and he finished it, kind of thing, and it's amazing if you ever get a chance to watch it.
Remember Inferno being almost like I think they named it like a cult classic.
Oh, it is. All three of them were really good. They're all and they all center around, I think, this mother witch. I think it was Mater Lacrimarum, I think is what her name is. But yeah, all three stories kind of center around this ancient, powerful witch. And if you haven't seen them, all three of the films, and now that all three of them are out, and especially Three Mothers is really, really fascinating. Just an engrossing film. I don't think holds the power of Suspiria, because there was so much more context into Suspiria, and I think because it was where Argento started. He put much more into it and really got to create this masterpiece. And I mean, hell, the film grossed over $1 billion in Italy.
Oh wow!
It was like 1.43 billion was its gross in Italy, and there was like 1.8 million in North American rentals. But for I think what currency do they use over there?
Baguettes or something.
I guess, but 1.43 billion in his native country is pretty damn impressive for a film in 1977. So, but yeah, an amazing series of films starting with Suspiria, and I absolutely adore the no. I don't think he was trying to capitalize on the final girl, but the way he wrote it, and I don't think she comes off like a final girl.
She really doesn't.
I think she comes off as a girl who was strong and didn't realize her strength. But he, the concept of, a professional ballet company, that's hard enough as it is. And then her arc, it was more of her growth arc and just kind of like finding herself in that. It was just, I think, just beautifully done. Absolutely stellar,
Yeah, she had a great arc in the movie. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm very much in the Joss Whedon camp of that, where I would much rather, strong female characters or powerful female characters. I understand the trope of the final girl and, finding her strength and beating the bad guy and coming out on top and like this. I get that. I get the notion of it, but that's more of an American trope as far as horror goes. Because, as Cabin in the Woods taught us, we pretty much have a formula. Horror is, mostly formulaic in that respect. Mm-hmm. But I think Argento... I don't think that's what he was going for. That's not what I pulled from it. It's not what I gleaned.
I've never.
And I didn't even.
Oh no! Oh no! Go ahead. I've never seen her as like as a final girl trope. Never have.
Yeah. So, but like Rebecca said, she checked out the remake, and the remake itself was quite good as well. I thought all of the girls, especially Tilda Swinton, I'm going to give some real props to Tilda Swinton because she played 3 fucking roles in that movie.
She's incredible. Really, truly transformative. Yeah.
Especially, I loved her because I bring her up as I loved her in Jim Jarmusch's Dead Don't Die. The Dead Don't Die. She was hysterical in that one. But God, she was absolutely amazing. I think the 3 characters played in that, I think 2 of them were male.
Yeah, they were.
She plays the psychiatrist at the beginning. Yep. Yeah, and I didn't even realize, that was her. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen this guy before, And I was like, oh, wait, it's not even a guy. Like, what?
Dude looks like a lady.
Yeah, it was very it was convincing as an older man. Yeah.
I've loved her work since Keanu Reeves in Constantine.
Oh God!
When she played the Archangel Gabriel. Yep. So she was fantastic in that.
Killed that
everything that she does. So that's a question for the audience: is of this film, which did you prefer? Did you prefer the more, I would say, cerebral and psychological original, or the more horror driving aspects of the remake? Both of them are visual treats. But which one did you like? Did you like the original or did you like the remake? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what you thought.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Week in Horror.
Ooh, good stuff.
Yeah, no.
Lots of good stuff.
This makes me now got to go watch the remake of Suspiria.
Oh, it's worth it. It's worth it.
For sure. All right. Well, as always, thank you so much to our listeners. We can't do any of this without you guys. We'd just be talking to each other and it'd be super weird. So we'd really like to hear back from you. Any feedback, comments, questions, concerns, you know the drill. Hit us up on Facebook, You can also shoot us an email over at weekinhorror@gmail.com. You can catch our podcast on any of your podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Yeah!
On iHeartRadio now. So you can check us out there. You can go to anchor.fm and find us there as well. If you're liking what we're doing and you want to kind of help us out a little bit, you can check us out on our Patreon, www.patreon.com/weekinhorror. If you donate, starting at very little up to a couple of bucks, you can get some extra content. We do our Bloodbath, which is where we take two horror icons and pit them against each other and battle to the death. And that's always a good time.
This next one is so awesome, Rebecca. It's we put Freddy Krueger up versus the Djinn in Wishmaster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
and
good.
the one before that was Michael Myers versus Jason Voorhees. So we do like legit Oxford style debates on this. It's really fucking great.
I want to see the
definitely fun.
actual battle.
Hey, we got a couple of, movie producers and actors here. We could probably just play these out and have them as like a YouTube series. I don't know, man.
Maybe something like
We have
that.
so many ideas for this.
Yeah, exactly. And so with the Patreon, you'll get our Bloodbath. Also our After Dark, which we'll be doing with Rebecca after this episode, where we go and sit down with our special guests and get to know them a little bit better and talk about some of their work and some of their thoughts on the industry. Check us out on facebook.com/weekinhorror. Follow us, like us there. You'll get a little bit of daily splatter, which is just a little bit of horror history every single day. We're also on Twitter now at weekinhorror, so you can hit us up on there, shoot us a comment, questions. Yeah.
And then thank you again, Rebecca Kennedy, for joining us. It's been so great having you on the show. Is there anything you would like our listeners to know, like what's coming up for you?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've had so much fun talking about these movies with you guys. I have a film called Limbo with James Purefoy. It premiered at the Beverly Hills Film Festival last year, and so we're hoping that I will have distribution news for everyone soon where you guys can see that. I'm really excited. I'm really proud of the film, and I'm excited for everyone to see it. And then I have two other films coming up. One is called A Dark Foe with Graham Greene and Selma Blair. That will be premiering at a film festival next month. I don't know if I'm allowed to say which one yet, so I won't say yet, just in case, to cover my bases.
When
yeah,
you can, we can plug you.
Right, I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm really excited to see it all put together. I look very different in the film, so I'm excited for people to see that. And then I have one other one called Los Angeles that I filmed in 2018 as well. And we did some pickups last year, so hopefully it will be coming out soon-ish. So yeah, that's where people can keep their eyes open, and hopefully I'll have some more stuff to share as well.
Sweet. Dropping some big names there, Selma Blair.
I know.
Not trying to name drop, but you know.
Now, she's. I have to tell you, I have an anecdote from when I was chilling with the Boondock Saints. They have a story that's very similar to that. It's quite funny. But anyway, so excellent. We will definitely keep our eyes open for that. Real quick, Rebecca, do you have a page that you'd like to plug where people can go check you out, or just on Facebook?
Yeah, I am on Facebook. I have a like page on there, but I don't really keep up with it as much. And my personal page is about out of friends. But you can always follow me on there, but don't be offended if I can't friend you, because you only, for whatever reason, can have so many friends on Facebook, which is weird.
Yeah, she's got enough friends that need to be friends. But be sure to follow her at Facebook. You can find her, Rebecca Kennedy, on Facebook.
And I'm
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm also on Instagram at Becca BEKAHK, because my name was taken, and then Rebecca Kennedy on Twitter as well, if people still Twitter. No.
Apparently they do.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
And for your upcoming stuff, we will keep our eyes open for that. And to all of our Patreons, we will see you over on After Dark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Sign off.
Oh, sorry. It cut out. My bad. It cut out for a second. I'm Eugene signing off.
Alex signing out.
This is Jail, and we'll see you next week.